back to school, and I'm going to be reciting Don't Let It End This Way by Sukkot. The hospital was unusually quiet that bleak January evening. Quiet and still, like the air before a storm. I glanced at the clock in the nurse's station. It was 9 o'clock. I threw a stethoscope around my neck and headed to room 712. When I entered the room, Mr. Mills looked up eagerly. He dropped his eyes when he saw it was only me, his nurse. I pressed my stethoscope around, against his chest and listened strong and slow. There seemed a little indication he had suffered from a heart attack a few hours earlier. He looked up, tears filling his eyes. I touched his hand, waiting. Nurse, would you call my daughter? You see, I live alone, and she is the only family that I have. His respiration speeded up, so I increased his oxygen supply. Of course I'll call her, Mr. Mills. He gripped his sheets and pulled himself forward. But would you call her, like, right away, as soon as you can? He was breathing fast, too fast. Yes, Mr. Mills, I promise you I'll call her first chance I get. Now you relax and get some rest. He closed his eyes, and reluctant to leave, I moved through the shadowy silence to the windows. The panes were cold. Below, a foggy mist covered the hospital parking lot. Snow clouds quilted the sky. Nurse, would you get me a pencil and a piece of paper? I dug a scrap of yellow paper and a pen from my pocket. I placed it on his bedside table, smiled, and left. Mr. Mills' daughter was listed on his chart as next of kin. I got her number from information. Miss Janie Mills, this is Sue Kidd, a nurse at the hospital. I'm calling about your father. He was admitted tonight with a heart attack, but she screamed in the phone, startling me. He's not dying, is he? It was more a plea than a question. His condition is stable at the moment. I was trying to sound convincing. You must not let him die. Oh. Her voice cracked. Tears. Her voice was so compelling that my hand began to tremble on the phone. He's getting the very best of care. But you don't understand. About a year ago, my dad and I had a terrible argument. I haven't seen him since. All these months, I wanted to go to him for forgiveness. The last thing I said to him was, I hate you. Her voice cracked, and I heard her heave pouring agonizing sobs. I listened, tears burning in my eyes. A daughter and father so lost in each other. Then I began thinking of my own father, so many miles away. I can't remember. It had been so long since I told him that I loved him. Finally, she spoke. I'm coming right now, and I'll be there in 30 minutes. She hung up. I tried to busy myself with stacks of charts on the desk, but I couldn't concentrate. Room 712. I felt I had to get back to room 712. I headed down the hall in nearly a run. Mr. Mills went unmoved. I reached for his pulse, but there was none. Code 99, room 712. Code 99, room 712. The alert was shooting through the hospital moments after the switchboard operator had been notified. Mr. Mills had a cardiac arrest. I leveled his bed and bent over and compressed. 1, 2, 3. At 15, I moved back to his mouth and breathed as deeply as I could. Oh, where was the help? Again, I compressed and breathed, compressed and breathed. Oh God, I prayed, please, his daughter is coming. Don't let it end this way. The door burst open. Doctors and nurses pushing emergency equipment into the room. A doctor took over the manual compression of the heart. A tube was inserted in the patient's mouth as an airway. Nurses plunged syringes of medicine into the intravenous tubing. I watched the heart monitor. Nothing, not a beat. I handed the doctor the house with the electric shock to the heart. Over and over we tried, but nothing. Still no response. A nurse turned off the oxygen. The gurgling stopped. One by one we left, grim and silent. I stood by his bed, stunned. How could I face his daughter? When I left the room, I saw her. A doctor who had been in 712 only moments before stood talking to her, gripping her elbow. When he moved on, he left her slumped against the wall. Such pathetic hurt, such wounded eyes. I touched her, I grabbed her hand and led her to the nurse's lounge. We sat, neither of us saying a word. Jamie, I'm so sorry. It was pitifully inadequate. I never hated him, you know. I loved him. I wanted to see him. My first thought was, why put yourself through more pain? But I got up, put my arm around her, and led her down the corridor to room 712. She pushed open the door and buried her face in his sheets. I tried not to look at the sad goodbye. I backed up, and as I did, my hand fell upon a yellow scrap of paper. I picked it up, reading, "My dearest Jamie, honey, I forgive you, and I pray that you will also forgive me. I know that you love me, and I love you too. Daddy." The note was shaking in my hand when I gave it to Jamie. She read it once, then twice. Peace began to glisten in her eyes. She hugged the scrap of paper to her breast. I had no time to waste. I tiptoed from the room to the nearest telephone I could find. "Daddy? No, I just wanted to call and tell you that